did with all those people because I would send them cold messages on LinkedIn, and then eventually I did a project for a artist who signed underneath Jamie Foxx, and that project was executive produced by Jamie Foxx. So things just started snowballing pretty quickly. What's up, guys? So this week is going to be another solo podcast for me, and I wanted to kind of give a little insight on how I got to where I am today. So a lot of people don't know, or if you don't know what I do for a living, I do social media marketing and video production. But I've also ran a six-figure agency and saw that, succeed and fail at the same time. So in this video, I kind of want to show you how I got into video production, why, I went to film school, went to school for film and marketing, how I got my first job, and how I started my business and why it succeeded, so you guys can learn from that, but then also why it failed, so you guys can learn from that side as well. And I hate to say failed because it's still running till its day, but we've had to pivot significantly in the past year or so, and so maybe you guys can take something away from that and learn from, my failures in business and failures early on in my career. So the first start is I've always had a passion for creating. I started doing graphic design, web design, and creating short videos at a relatively younger age, probably around like 12. I started doing graphic design stuff in Photoshop because I had like a class in middle school, a graphic design class, and it was only like for one semester, but we learned the basics of Illustrator and Photoshop. And then in high school, I had another graphic design class, and then I had a web design class. So that was kind of like my entryway into creating things. But growing up before that, I always loved writing. I loved, creating like circuit board things that my mom would get these little science kits for me. So I always enjoyed creating, but I was never, creative in the terms of what my family is creative, because my sister is an amazing artist, and so is my great uncle. They're award-winning artists. So I never saw myself as a creative until I kind of went to college and doing what I do now, and other people told me I'm creative, but I'm not like a creative in the sense of being able to draw and stuff like that. So like I said, I went to the University of Central Florida for film and marketing. And honestly, if I could do it again, I would probably bypass the whole going to college thing. If I wanted to focus strictly on my career. College, I probably made my best friends that I still call and talk to today. But in terms of a career standpoint, I didn't really, I guess per se, advance my career in any way I couldn't have done if I just went straight into my field of work. It did help me get an internship, and it maybe probably helped me get my later in the career jobs. But in terms of video production, and if you're going to start your own business, I say start as soon as possible. And I'll tell you, once I kind of go into, I guess, how I got my first internship and then my last year of college, if I didn't go to college, those things will be what I would be doing right out of high school. So I got my first internship doing like a college internship program in LA, where, you did a college internship. So that's kind of why I said, kind of think, going to college, I got that internship, but I probably could have got that internship or a similar one without being in college if I had done some networking beforehand. So like I said, I did the college internship, which got me my first internship. And then right out of college, it was one of my first of 3 jobs that I worked out of college. So when I first got out of college, I worked 3 jobs. And that internship was honestly all 3 of the jobs that I was working right out of college. Yes, I was working 3 jobs out of college were because of the internship. The first one was directly working with that creative agency out of college. The second one was working at BuzzFeed as a PA, which the reason why I got that was because one of the people that worked at my internship before me, I met, and she worked at BuzzFeed once I moved out to LA, so she could get me PA jobs at BuzzFeed. So I worked at that creative agency, BuzzFeed, and then also at like another like a guy's house where he did like marketing campaigns on Facebook. I was like his apprentice. He didn't even pay me, to be honest. I just went there twice a week with a friend of mine, and then we learned about marketing and Facebook ads and things along those lines. So I guess you could say I worked 2 jobs, but technically it was 3 jobs, but one just didn't pay. Um, but doing those jobs, honestly, looking back, it kind of shaped what I kind of did to start my 6-figure business. Kind of encompassing all those jobs was when I started my agency. But before jumping into that is how I got you know like kind of how I got into LA and like getting internships and just moving my career forward and getting like side gig video production jobs where I was working those three jobs, but sometimes I would do video projects for people. I would do a video for like $300-400 for a random tattoo artist, or I would literally meet people from the companies that I wanted to work with. So when I first got to LA, I wanted to work at Lionsgate. I wanted to work at Warner Brothers. I wanted to work at LeBron James Entertainment Company. I wanted to work at these production companies, and I ended up meeting people, CEOs of Open Roads Productions. That was one of my favorite production companies, and I talked to the CEO. I talked to the VP of marketing at Lionsgate. I talked to one of the office managers at LeBron James production company, Springfield Entertainment. And how I got those was simply by going on LinkedIn and going to all the companies that I wanted to work at, going to their LinkedIn profiles, going to the people that worked at those companies, and just blast connecting all the people in all the departments that I wanted to work at. So Lionsgate, Warner Brothers, Springfield Entertainment, Marvel. I literally met an animator at Marvel that when I visited San Francisco, he was going to allow me, not Marvel, Lucasfilms. He was going to allow me tours Lucasfilms, but then last minute we ended up going to see Alcatraz instead of doing that. But beside the point, I literally connected with them on LinkedIn. I would send them cold messages on LinkedIn, or I would go to their LinkedIn profile and then go to their contact list and then clicking on the contact and getting their email. The email that I sent to them, all of them were personalized. So this is not going to be something where you blast out, thousands of emails a day. You might send 10 to 15 good ones a day. And what I did was I would find their names on LinkedIn, copy them to Google, YouTube, and then find like a hobby of theirs, or if they had a YouTube channel, find their YouTube channel and just send the email that's super personalized. Like, hey, Johnny, I saw your YouTube video about your day with your dog. That was really cool. That inspired me to reach out to you, blah, blah, blah. And the subject, I would put, hi, Johnny, saw your video about your dog at the beach. So then when that hits their email, they see a very personalized, and I would say still only 5% of the people that I would reach out, sent emails to, reached out. And that's probably better than a cold email, which is probably less than 1%. But the point of that is you want to make it super personalized and show the person that you actually did your research, because you don't want to just send a pointless email and then 9 times, I would say more than 9 times out of 9.9999, no, 9.9999 out of 10, you're not going to get a reply if you don't personalize it. But what I learned from that is what the theme was. I always told them my goal is to work on the business side on video production, and then eventually move myself into the director's role. Sorry, I heard someone behind me. The director's role, or on the creative side, because I would have been working on the business side so much. Because when I went to film school, I learned so much about the creative, but nothing about the business side. And my family background is finance background, so I always enjoyed learning about business. So I felt like if I worked on the business side, one, it would be more steady income, and two, I would have been able to kind of figure out my passion on the business side as well, because I do have a passion for business. But I also knew from video, like going to film school, is the production side is very not steady income. You're working on productions, you might work 3 months straight and then you might not work for another month. And I didn't really want that. At least that's not what I thought I did. And so I kind of didn't, talk to them about what they recommended. And I told them that, and all of them said, 9 times out of 10, I keep saying 9 times out of 10, but it's true. They all said the sooner you start creating for yourself, the sooner you'll be able to be a director in those bigger roles. And I just didn't really think about that, because what I wanted, granted, I've been living in LA. LA's expensive, and creating for yourself is not, you're not making any money most of the time. So that wasn't realistic and for me, because I was like, okay, so I'm working like probably 20, 30-hour job at the creative agency. Sometimes I'd work 10 to 15 hours at BuzzFeed. So that's already like 40, 50 hours of work, and not including the apprentice job. So I'm working like 67 hours a week, so creating for myself just didn't really fit into that mold. And so I just kept chugging along. And I was like, I'm going to work out on the business side so my paycheck could be steady. Because working at BuzzFeed, I would be called in, like I said, 10, 15 hours one week, but then the next week, 5 hours. And I did that for like 4 or 5 months, but then luckily I had that job at the creative agency that helped. But that wasn't even that high paying job. And so after doing that for I lived in LA for about a little less than a year and probably 8 months. I found a job at an entertainment company. Or a management company, and the manager I worked under was the manager for Ken Jeong, and so looking on staying on that projection is I'm working jobs on the business side this whole time. Now the good thing about that job is, one, you really really learn the business of filmmaking, and you look at the contracts. Like might have been only an assistant, but I was looking at the contracts. I was going to Ken Jeong. I was looking at working with the agents from all these different agencies, because he's a manager, not an agent. So I'm talking to all these agents, talking to producers on emails, learning the business side, and it's also a steady income. It's a 9 to 5, you work more than 9 to 5, but it's that 9 to 5 job where you have that steady income. And honestly, it was a blessing in disguise in the sense of I learned the contracts that go into making a film, and not just a film, but commercials, because I dealt with commercial contracts too. But then you're also working so hard, so many hours, and being treated so poorly by your bosses and everyone around you, because when you're an assistant at a talent management company, you're the bottom of the bottom. So you're getting not only the heat from your boss, but you're getting the heat from all the talent. And then since I'm the only assistant in this management company, and there's 3 managers, I'm pretty much the assistant for 3 managers instead of just him. So it was very, very hectic, which probably helped me in my job today, which is very hectic with agencies when I'm dealing with 16 clients at the same time, which I'm kind of used to that my whole career at this point. And I found that job on an entertainment careers website. If I find if the website's still around, I'll put the link to that website right here. And then if it's still around, I would definitely recommend. And what I did, I just went on those websites every day and just applied until I got a job and got an interview. And so then the next thing I'm working at, while I'm working at that talent management company, I'm getting treated so poorly. Like, I'm getting yelled at by my bosses, even though I'm doing a somewhat decent job. It's just the nature of that job is so high demanding. I moved to a production company as a sales executive. A family friend knew I was in production, and they had invested into this company. I'm not going to say their name because they kind of got scammed, because this company ended up being a scam. But they did legitimately make movies. They produced movies, but the way they raised the capital was by cold calling people and essentially lying to them about the films that they were investing in. And I did that for about 4 months. But and then you can kind of see a theme while I'm working these jobs for 6 months at a time, then quitting. Because the whole time in the back of my head, I always knew I wanted to own my own business. I wanted to do this, but I wanted to learn the business side first, and then be able to put myself in this position and start a company. But little did I know was, if my 10-year plan ended up being my 4-year plan. And after, I would actually say less than 4 years, my 3-year plan. Because at this point, I'm 2 years out of college, less than 2 years out of college. And I quit, I work at that production company for 4 or 5 months until I realized it's a scam. And then, because I did produce some movies with Mel Gibson and these big name actors, it's just how they raised the money to make it was very, 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 very shady. And they lied about people. They said, you're investing in this movie, but really the money's most likely going to another movie that they are behind on payments for. And so I left that, and the film and entertainment industry is very shady. But the one thing I would like to say, this whole time I am doing like side projects in my free time for friends, and if I have time, um, for random businesses. And luckily, I did have friends that I knew out there who were like social media influencers who I started kind of working with, creating content for their social media pages. One is Taven, you might know him as Touche. Another is Corey Scher. Another, and the list goes on because I don't want to name all of them, because they had like a influencer house, and so I created videos for them on the side, kind of got my name out there as well. But then when I quit my production job, I moved into a house with 8 people. So I didn't move. Actually, we took my apartment that was a 2-2 apartment, and we put 8 people in there, and then for about 8 months, we were just creating stuff. But I realized I wanted to finally be on my own, not have roommates, and just focus on my own business after leaving a bit. Because like those 2 years in LA, or a year and 8 months before I moved to Atlanta, if you could tell, I kind of hopped from job to job because I couldn't quite figure out what I wanted to do, or how I could get to how could I get to that part of just creating for myself, which I always wanted to do, but I wanted to learn the business part first. And like I said, I did not listen to the advice of those people because, in the back of my head, how do I pay for my rent and my food and all these things if I'm creating for myself and making no money? And so that kind of led to me realizing, okay, how do I start creating full-time for a job? And one, I needed to get out of LA because the cost of living was too high. So I picked Atlanta. A buddy of mine told me about it, how the music industry is big there, the production company industries, the film industry is big there. A lot of startups are moving there, and I kind of already knew that, but I always, LA, I want to move to LA. And this was before the big rush out of LA. This was like 2018, 2020, because I graduated college in 2018, and then I left LA late 2019, almost 2020. And so I moved to moved to Atlanta, and immediately just start doing that same exact thing that I did to meet people at all these production companies, but I did it to local artists, businesses, a lot of rappers, like I said, local artists, and I literally just found them on Instagram, sent them Instagram messages, or took their emails off of LinkedIn, off of Instagram, and I just emailed. I would spend hours and hours, because now, when I moved to Atlanta, my full goal was to own my own video production company. So all day, every day, I would just send emails and messages to random people, cold offering, buy one, get one music videos. In the beginning, I'll do a music video for $100 just to get my name out there. And then slowly that started, snowballing. That $100 turned into $200. That $200 now is $500. And now I'm doing deals like do $1,500, you get 2 music videos. And it's not like a great living, but then all of a sudden I start working with this company, this modeling agency. I start working with this modeling agency on top of I started getting into these labels, but I started working with up and coming artists. I would go onto these big name rappers, Migos or Quavo, 21 Savage, and then I would go to who they're following, and then I would do videos for the people that they follow. And so then eventually I'm starting doing music videos for like rappers within QC, the label that signed the Migos, doing music videos for Young Dolph's people within Young Dolph's record label. And then eventually I did a project for a artist who signed underneath Jamie Foxx named J Young MDK, and that project was executive produced by Jamie Foxx. So things just started snowballing pretty quickly for video production for me when I got to Atlanta within probably 6 months, because every day I was reaching out to people, doing music videos, doing everything. But then I started realizing, getting a hint of, is this really what I want to do? Because once I started getting up there and working with these bigger name people And they're not big name people in the sense of, they have millions and millions of followers, but the companies, the record labels that they're assigned to, their managers who they're working with, they're the big people. They're the people that actually have legitimate people within the business. But when I realized working with these people, and since I was such a young, no-name thing, people would kind of, I would say, they would micromanage me, or they would say, hey, after I got directed a little thing for J Young MGK, and that was executive approved by Jamie Foxx, then his manager and him was like, hey, how about we co-produced it and I co-directed it with you, even though I did 100% of the work. They kind of started seeing that my work was really good and there was something there, but then they were starting to take credit. And that's what you start seeing in this like kind of mid range of the entertainment industry, because you have people who are trying to make it. You have these people who are trying to make it and not just there yet, and they want to prove to the people above them that they're more than just who they are. And so they used my work to say they co-directed stuff, co-produced stuff, though I did a lot of most of the work, and I just didn't like that. So then I eventually pulled myself back and realized, what do I really want to do? And I'm not going to say like I was successful in video production, but I'm 23, 24 years old, and I'm making $50,000 a year working for myself instead of working for someone else. And I feel like that in itself was a success, because when I started pulling back, I started realizing, okay, these music videos, I'm not really passionate about music videos. I'm passionate about creating. Eventually, I want to create for myself. How do I get there? And then while I'm pulling back, because I'm having a steady income at this part for my video production, so I'm not like pulling back in the sense of I'm cutting everything up. I'm just not taking on any new clients. I'm not growing the business past that mark that it's at. And then COVID happened. And I essentially lost a lot of my clients that were those steady clients because, COVID happened. We couldn't meet up, and made me have to pivot. And I've always done video production, content creation, graphic design, web design, like I said. And I was doing social media marketing for myself and part-time a little bit for my sister. And so when COVID happened, I couldn't meet with people. And so I started taking on more marketing clients. And I'm good at marketing. I'm good at social media. I understand the algorithms. I just don't do it for myself because you don't get paid to do it for yourself. And I'm not like super passionate about like being a social media manager, I'm passionate about creating. And so I never really did it for myself, and I always did it for other people because they would pay me to do it. And so I started doing it for my sister, and then I started seeing the success I did for her. So then I started reaching out to people. The same thing that I did for video production, I started doing for myself with social media marketing. And then on top of that, people saw my sister's a financial advisor, so her clients started seeing the success on her account. And then so she started referring me clients. Well, I'm getting clients from just cold emailing. And literally within the first 8 months to a year, in that first year of COVID, I was making $100,000, over $100,000 doing this, something that I did not ever see myself doing. Now I understand there's a creative aspect of social media marketing, and that's what kept me going. It's like, even though posting and replying to comments and inbox management wasn't my nail and butter, like nail and butter, my whatever it's called, that, but I just kept doing it because the money was coming in. I've never made, I never made six figures in my life until then. And then people started asking me about my LinkedIn. Oh, how do you get so many clients? So then I started teaching people about my cold emailing and my LinkedIn strategy. And then that started snowballing. And so eventually, within like 2 years of COVID, my business is almost making $200,000. Like we're marching to that $200,000 mark. But then kind of what happened was I don't want to say I got burned out, but going back on it, social media marketing is not my passion. Generating leads with LinkedIn is not my passion. I do it for myself because I know it's going to get me new clients. But eventually that engulfed everything I did. I started hiring people to help. My brother was helping with me. Hudson, who still works with me, hired him. I worked with my buddy Jamal. So many people that I started hiring to help me with this. They would take on part-time jobs to help me with this. And I just realized I was outsourcing the things that I liked doing because, eventually I started outsourcing content creation. And so after a while, I was doing hardly any content creation and just managing, because whenever I tried outsourcing the LinkedIn stuff, it wouldn't work as well. So then I was like, okay, I can teach someone how to create some of these clips for the content. But the LinkedIn thing and these cold emailing, you need to be passionate about the business or spend the time. And I just couldn't find someone to do that. So then I eventually outsourced everything I'm passionate about and focused solely on generating leads, managing clients, managing the people I hire. And after about a year and a half, 2 years of doing that, so like now, from the part that I'm talking about now, from moving to Atlanta for the first time, that's probably like a 2-year swing right there. So I did it for like 2 years. I grew my business to almost, $200,000 within 2 years. And what happened was I just lost the passion for my own business. I wasn't enjoying doing the social media marketing things. I was, in the back of my head, the goal was always, okay, I am going to stop offering social media marketing eventually and use the money I make from this business and launch it into starting just doing video production full time. But something always came up. It was like, okay, I need to hire someone. I need to give this person more hours so I don't have to do these tasks anymore. If I give them more hours, that means it's less money coming through into the business. So it was always like these little things where it's like, okay, and then I would just always reinvest it into the business, because like I was in the things I would invest in with things on how to get more clients, so then I could get more money. And it was like a never-ending cycle of like, okay, I'll do it again. I'm going to take the money that we made and put it back into the business so then I could, but then when you put it back in the business, you get more clients. You need to hire more people or give more people more hours to make those clients. And it's just like a never ending cycle. And so then what happened was, which you guys might learn this, is I started, I kind of skipped over the part where I worked at HP for a little bit before it was like COVID happened. I started losing all those clients. Then I worked at HP doing video production for them. And then while I'm working at HP doing video production, that snowball of my marketing agency happened. So 2 years after my business started, I have already quit HP. HP now comes to me and asks me to start doing a project for them for video production. Also, while they came to me, another client came on board, and she needed me to shoot an online course for her and do a website and online course for her. And at that time, I was the only one that could shoot the online course. I didn't have anyone on my team. I didn't know anyone that could, because, and I felt like, okay, if I could do this myself, I could take all this money and this could be that launch pad. So I finished the HP project. Big corporate clients are the easiest to work with. Money's going to hit your pocket easy. Like, as long as you do a good job, that money's going to be in your bank account. Now, the online course lady, on the other hand, she was the hardest person I've ever worked with. Nothing was good enough for her. A project that I thought would only be, it was like 5 videos or like 7 videos. They were supposed to be 3 to 5 minutes long. So I charged her like $3-4 grand. Turns out the videos are like 55 minutes long each. And it's a family friend, so she kind of screws me in that sense. And like, I told her like, this is not what I quoted you for. And what happens is, since it's a family friend, I was like, I'm not going to charge you, but you cannot just be a little easy on me on like the edits, like don't have like 20 re-edits, And she was fine with that. And that's where I made the mistake. Never bend your back for someone in business. Never. Because what happened was I had, instead of spending, a weekend, 2 weekends on this client, I had to spend a month going back and forth with them. And in that month, I had delegated my tasks from my big name clients that were my marketing clients over to some people. And then so my big name marketing clients, they didn't know that directly. But at one time, once I finally finished that project, I took those responsibilities back. And those clients were unhappy because the quality of service had went down since I handed it off to them. And within a week or two, I was like trying to fix things for them, blah, 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 but it was just too much. And so then we lost those clients. And so within like a month time frame, my business was on the verge of like hitting, like going past the 200,000 mark to like hovering around that 100,000 mark. But at that time, I had the hours and the employees and all their payroll as if we were making that same amount of money. So things kind of got dicey real quick. So I started having to fire people, lower people's hours. And then once I stabilized the business and seeing the drop from that high to barely breaking 100,000, I was like, do I really want to regrow this? Because the only reason why I was growing this business was to get on to the next thing I wanted. And so about a year and a half ago, actually it was probably 2 years at this point, I just made the decision. I'm not going to take on any new clients. I'm going to let the campaigns that are just 6 months contracts, I'm going to let those expire and almost start this company from scratch and not focus on bringing in revenue for marketing and strictly focus on creating content for myself. And so now where I'm at is I now only have 4 clients, and I'm a social media director at a larger marketing agency. And that was probably the best thing I could do, because when I was owning my business, I was a slave to my own business. I was working 100 plus hours a week, no days off, could never work on projects on my own, couldn't do stuff like this, couldn't do videos that you guys have never seen because I do them, I don't like them, and then I toss them out. Or I create videos that you will see eventually. And I didn't have time to create that content. But ever since starting working at this agency about 6 months ago, and then leaving, my agency, kind of letting it not grow and just stabilize for the past 2 years, has been a blessing in disguise, because now I'm finally on that track. When I graduated college and all those CEOs and those executives told me, create for yourself. The sooner you could do that, the better. And now I'm at the point that I can, because I have a job that I enjoy doing at a Creatives Collective. I enjoy my job. I have 4 clients that I can service essentially by myself, but then I have Hudson helping me still, which is a blessing. And shout out to Hudson. He's a blessing for me. He's one of the best business partners, I would say. And I'm able to focus on the things that I like. And so if I could leave you guys with anything, is don't be afraid to work a job outside your field if it allows you to create for yourself. And what I mean by that is, if you want to be a director, if you want to be a content creator, a YouTube star, TikTok star, just a person that just creates commercials, video production, if you are working, for me, like I was working at BuzzFeed, I was working those 3 jobs, I had no time to create for myself, really. When I was on my own business, I was working 100 plus hours. I had no time to create for myself. So if I could do it all again, I wouldn't be afraid to working at a waiting job, or a job that I knew I only had this set of hours, but knew I had a steady income, and then the rest of the week I could create for myself. I would honestly recommend probably going that route instead of working being a PA on a production set and working 60, 70 hours a week all times of the day, but never being able to create for yourself. So if you want to be a director, if you want to own your own video production company, find a way as soon as possible to create the things you want to create. Because right now I'm working at Creators Collective and I love what I'm doing. I love the people. I love the job. Sometimes, yes, I work maybe 60, 70 hours a week, but on average, I'm only putting in 50, 60, not 100 like I was at my job, or 80 like I was doing when I owned my own business every week. Now I have that time. And so if I could give any piece of advice, is find what you're passionate about and make it almost like a side hustle, and then work any job that you want, any job that allows you for a steady income. If you truly want to follow your passion, make that passion a side hustle and then grow it, and then start from there. And that's kind of like what I did over a 4-year period. And if I could do it all again, I would do that from the get-go. Don't be afraid to work a waitressing job or a fast food job or, any type of job if it's going to get you one step closer to your passion and your goals. Because if you look at some of the most successful people, their first jobs or their jobs that they were working while they were working on their craft was not the most glorious thing. So I hope this helps you guys in any shape or form. If you have any comments about individual things that I might have just glanced over quickly, put those in the comments. I'll try to answer as many of them as possible. But at the end of the day, don't be afraid to pivot as well, because that's another reason why it took me so long, to kind of pivot back to just doing video production, was because I was working with so many people. I had people under me, people that I would pay weekly to help me with these clients, and I didn't want to let them down. But sometimes you do have to be a little bit selfish, especially when it's your own business. And so I hope this helps anyone who's trying to get in the creative space doing video production, because there's a lot of things that I would probably skip over. So if I could do it again, if you're in high school, don't tell your parents this, but I'd probably not go to college, and I'd probably start working at a regular job where there's a waitressing job, or just a job that I knew I could get 40 hours a week, pay my bills, and then those rest of those, 60 hours, I break my weeks into 100 hours, because a 100-hour week, if you break it, is not too bad if you're doing something you're passionate about. And so if you're passionate about, you're doing 100 hours or working 60 hours on top of that 40 hours is nothing, even if it's 80 hours. But don't be afraid to work those jobs, because if it allows you to do your passions, then it's honestly a blessing in itself. So hope this helps you guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and peace.